Okay, there we go. Let's get started. Welcome everybody at a new Bytes of Innovation webinar. Bytes of Innovation is a webinar that is powered by Segmed. Segmed is a company that provides real-world imaging data to researchers. At Bytes of Innovation, we invite key opinion leaders to talk about the future of healthcare. The show is co-hosted by Dr. Aline Lutz, who is the VP of Real World Evidence and Clinical Insights, and by myself. My name is Martin Willemink. I'm co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer at Segmed. So everybody in the audience, if you have a question or a comment or anything, make sure to put it in the notes or in the chat box so that we can discuss this during the fireside chat today. I'm very excited that today we have Nijat Ahmadov amongst us. He is the co-founder and CEO of Nucs AI. He's an entrepreneur and a digital platform specialist. Previously, he worked in e-commerce and aerospace, so he has a broad knowledge of the general space, and he developed a track record of navigating complex compliance frameworks and scaling technical teams. Nucs AI is not his first success story. He actually previously built and exited a platform business that supported more than 500 global brands. With Nucs AI, Nijat and his team are automating and scaling prostate cancer management, transitioning advanced data capabilities into clinical practice. And I'm very excited specifically today that we're actually talking to Nijat because we have a press release that went out today about the partnership between Nucs AI and Segmed, and we will talk more about that during this Bytes of Innovation webinar. But we do something special. We actually have a short video about Nucs AI that we will show first, and then we're handing it over and we'll actually do the fireside chat with Nijat. So let's start with that video. Okay. I hope that works for everybody. I do see one message saying that the video is not playing, but then I heard from somebody else that it was working, so I'm not sure. But either way, for the recording, we will add it later if it didn't work well. But either way, welcome, Nijat, and great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Yes, of course, especially now that you're on your semi-vacation in France and still joining. We're actually all from different locations because I'm in the Netherlands right now, and Aline is in Brazil where she lives, and then Nijat is in France. So we're all over the place, which is pretty cool. So we know that one of the things that you are excited about is that imaging is the last frontier of real-world medical data, and that imaging has always lagged behind the genomics and the EHR data. And my question to you is, why is now the right time to change that? Why is now the time for imaging?
Yeah, thank you so much, Martin and Aline for inviting me for this. And I'd like to take a moment to congratulate our collaboration, as you already mentioned about the PR. Coming back to your question, yes, that's the claim what we made a couple months back and even beyond that. And there is two parts for this question: why it is lagging, and then why now part of that. If we look at the imaging part, imaging was always digital. So the problem was not digitalization. Even in 90s, we had the DICOMs, and it was always digital. And when you look at the genomics and EHR, the main part of that data was like it was structured. So that's why imaging was lacking. But why now part is a little bit more complicated part of the question. I call one point, which is RLT effect. Basically, when RLT entered to the picture, it required imaging to play more role, which is basically beyond diagnostic, describing the disease, but also select the treatment part, which was already economically much more valuable challenge, much more bigger challenge. So that's why it pushed that imaging to be more structured and also to have more solutions around. And then second part of this is, of course, AI. AI finally are good enough to basically extract reproducible quantitative features. And that gives us going beyond subjective interpretations. And then third part, which in most of the cases, what I realize is basically undervalued, which companies are finally able to solve the data access challenges thanks to Segmed and other real world data companies. So that's 3 points what I can mention here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of things are coming together right at this time, which is kind of exciting. And if you look at the AI, like the FDA approvals and things like that, imaging is actually at the forefront of the SAMDs, the software as a medical device FDA approvals. But if you look within medical imaging, there are actually quite a few exciting areas, and you guys decided to focus really specifically on molecular imaging and the theranostics area. Can you elaborate a little bit on what's exciting about that specific area?
Oh, that's the topic that I love talking about. So, uh, of course, we did not jump into the molecular imaging and theranostic just because it's the biggest market. When we started together with my co-founder Farid, the first couple of months, I was very kind of obsessed with understanding the market is leading and where the value is. And I can quickly see that chest X-ray, stroke CT, and mammography and other couple of fields are much more larger. But then and Farid and me, we were looking for sharpest wedge into the thesis building this company. And what is the thesis is basically what in the video we could see is basically treating the right patient with the right treatment at the right time. Right. So this was our thesis starting this. So that's why we started with the molecular imaging. But what makes the molecular imaging and theranostic so valuable for us? It is a couple of points. One of them is it is inherently quantitative. So other imaging modalities mostly showing you the anatomy, but molecular imaging measures the biology with numbers. So that's a quite different space you can clearly see at the start. But then one thing I love when I do my research, one is I can call it like a closed loop, because you image the specific molecular target and then you treat the same target and then you can image it again to monitor the response, which I love when I see this kind of closed loop. And that is one of the reason kind of got us to the molecular imaging theranostic side. But then also the third thing, which is more business related, is the biggest gap between what you see in the image and what you use in the clinical decision making is in the molecular imaging and theranostic direction. So there is a lot of signals, valuable signals, that in the clinical setup, due to the lack of time, lack of resources, lack of tools, that we are basically throwing away. We are not using them. So if the thesis was imaging should become more measurable, then the theranostic is where you basically plant your flag. And PSMA PET is currently is the most mature, highest volume, and also the highest stake example of that closed loop I just mentioned.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, it was actually interesting to know why the PSMA PET, but you kind of already answered that. Is there also a reason around that when you think about these kind of molecular imaging applications, it's not just used in the diagnostic world like a clinical practice, but it is also used in the pharma world for randomized controlled trials when it comes to solid tumors, for example? Has that been one of the reasons to think like, hey, this could be a good application for us?
Not directly at the start. This was not a decision driver for us. But obviously, in our current business model, pharma is one of the core part of that. For the reason to bring this products, what we are building, to the clinical setup faster than what is the normal life cycle. But yeah, pharma is core part of this, but was not the main decision driver at the start for us.
Got it, got it. Oh, it's kind of interesting, by the way. We just got a question in, and it's probably a little delayed. Why PSMA PET specifically? So we're not the only ones asking about that, so that's good. Okay. Another thing that I think is interesting that maybe we can talk a little bit about is the hidden information that we find in images, because as we discussed before, previously people are used to EHR data or claims data, those kind of data to actually work with when it comes to real world evidence or getting insights from medical data. But now we're actually working with imaging data. So when we are so today we often reduce incredibly rich imaging studies to just the radiology report. What kind of information do you think are we missing when we just only look at that report and not look at the actual images?
There is millions of pixels and voxels in the image, right? So there is tons of data information that we are missing. Also, there is a lot of information that we consider in our models when we build them. But a couple of them to name, what I see is very important. One of them can be total tumor volume, basically total burden of the disease, right? This is one of the strongest prognostic signal for me. And in many clinical cases, what I can see, again, due to the lack of time, lack of tools, that it's extremely challenging, especially for the metastatic cases, the cases that patients have many lesions. It is hard for the clinicians, physicians to basically calculate that. So this might be one of them, and also how to use this number in the further decision making, how to integrate this. And to name another can be heterogeneity, lesion level biology. Basically, not every lesion, what we see when we build our models, not every lesions are behaving the same. When you look at the lesion with the basically eye, you can kind of think that this lesion will react as the other one, but it doesn't always work that way. Another part is distribution, spatial distribution of the lesions, and the disease locations are matters in most of the cases when we build a model, right? So is it in the bone? Is it in the nodules? Is it in the viscerals? So that carries the biology. So that is one of the high stake questions what we ask. But then another thing is change over time. So if you look at our portfolio, you can also see the examples of that. This is where we are paying attention. That also has the part which is touching to the reporting part. In today's reports, in most of the cases, what we can see, it is mostly mentioned as stable or progressing disease. There is mostly a judgment. If you're talking about the measurement, that needs to be measured, that needs to be backed with a number and clear information. So those four can be the four that I can list from top of my mind.
Got it. Got it. Thanks. Aline, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that's all very interesting. You know, Nijat, when I was in medical school, nuclear medicine was kind of a new specialty. Kind of, I think no one really knew at the time what it was about, and it has grown a lot. And I see a huge trajectory for PSMA PET CT, because a few years ago at Segmed, we were looking into PSMA PET, and it was super hard to find. And nowadays, it's just part of the patient evaluation for prostate cancer, both as initial evaluation as well as further down the process. So could you tell us a bit more about why you think these AI-derived imaging biomarkers are so important now? Do you think they are going to replace or work in combination with traditional biomarkers, especially for cancer care?
Yeah, that's very good question. So replacing or complementing part, my short answer for that would be definitely strongly complementing. Looking at the other biomarkers, biopsy, for example, focusing on one location, and blood is focusing on systemic average. When you look at the imaging, you can see the whole body, and then also it's non-invasive and spatial information, which I mentioned earlier as well. And it's easily repeatable. You can clearly see that in many protocols throughout the patient journey, you have multiple time points where you can get the image for the patient. So when you look at that, you can clearly see that it is strongly complementing, because imaging does not replace existing biomarker. Imaging is basically the map that is basically showing that specific point, right? So if you ask me what is future looking like, I'd say it's multimodal rather than focusing one or the other, right? That's why mostly I say complementary. So that's also what we are focusing in Nucs AI when the new ideation, new products, and other fields we're exploring. So imaging, as I mentioned, giving us the map, and then genomics, pathology, blood biomarkers, providing the depth for that specific location. So in my opinion, we need both. I cannot say one or the other.
Yeah, makes sense. And all of them will serve the purpose of precision oncology and providing better care for patients. Now, you spoke about the use of PSMA PET for clinical decision making and how it can help in the management of those patients, and how your tool can help in clinical care. But what about a pharmaceutical perspective? So how does your tool or AI tools for PSMA PET could help in the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. Pharma is one of the main driver, especially in the theranostic and molecular imaging, right? They are one of the biggest players in this field. And when you look at what they are doing, they're investing billions of dollars in the new pipelines, new drugs, and trials. We all know that trials cost a lot of money for the pharma, right? So what is important for them is, yes, they would like to bring new drugs that will be effective for the patients, but at the end of the day, they're commercial entities. So the efficiency, financial side of the things are important for them as well, but also the success of what they are doing, what they are building. So better patient selection, what we see is one of the key. If you look at the numbers and the clinical success of the approved or non-approved drugs are roughly at the similar point. So better patient selection definitely needed in the theranostic direction. That's everybody agrees, right? And better patient selection leads to trial enrichment, which basically ultimately leads to low-cost trials and relatively shorter trials, and trial success as well. We all know that even though a drug goes to the phase 3 trials, in many cases they can fail still in the phase 3 as well, right? So that is 2 points. But after this drug goes to the market, 2 points got my attention, especially what is important for pharma is companion diagnostic. Drug goes to the market and physician needs a guidance how I'm going to use this drug and which patient should take this drug, right? So the companion diagnostic, especially AI software companion diagnostic in our cases, is one of the critical solutions for pharma to basically consider. And this is something that we should consider in the early phases of drug development, and when we are doing the trials, phase 2, phase 3, the others. And another point is the response assessment, because I'm going to touch one point, which can be another fireside chat, but we can clearly see that in Theranostic and in this field, it is going towards the combination therapy because of one. There's many, but one specific point is not every lesions are responding to the specific therapy same way. So in some cases, if we would like to help patient completely, then we might combine the therapies, right? So the response assessment, especially the lesion level response assessment, gives us full control over the therapy planning. So those are the things I think is important for pharma, sorry, to consider, which is basically leading to simple points, lower costs, faster development, and higher potential of or higher probability of success.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So out of all those possibilities into using AI tools to characterize disease biology from imaging, which one you think is going to impact most clinical trials? Is it the patient selection, the response assessment? Which of those aspects you think it's more important and will have a greater impact?
To be honest, I, especially from our experience, I would say at least it's hard to choose one or the other, but at least two of them has a huge weight. One is better patient selection, another one is the trial engagement, because pharma is huge entities and they have multiple teams, and it's not it's important to understand what is the specific team's focus, right? Different teams can focus on one or the other. So overall, it's hard to choose what is one point that is important for a specific pharma company or pharma. But for specific teams, it's easier to. And this too, I think, can be a good example.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to choose because there are so many good opportunities that that we can look at here. Okay, so maybe now we can get to the core of this webinar, because the title actually is Data is the Moat. So a lot of people actually think, when they think about AI, the model is the moat. Like, oh, I have a new model, so I can, that's really the differentiator for the AI performance. But you say, well, it's actually the data. I 100% agree with that, but I would like to hear why you think that actually the data is the moat and not the model is the moat.
It's strange for AI company to say that, right? But I agree with that statement as well. But there is a lot of things to be discussed around that. So one point I can mention is basically model advantage. For me, it's rented, and data advantage is owned. So to explain that, model is one step ahead of open release published open source model, right? And academia is constantly working on new models and innovative ways of doing the things. So it's true in most of the cases. If you look at the nature of the model, nature of the data, that's true. In some cases, it takes some time for academia to catch up with the commercial companies or startups as well, because the focuses are a little bit different. But in many cases, models are I can consider is rented. Model advantage is rented because there is a lot of thing going on in the industry. One thing is open source models and new developments in the academia side, but then another thing is technology is changing. Architectures and infrastructures are changing. So that is another point. But then even though you don't consider this too, another point is model is downloadable. Anybody can build the model and then download it somewhere, put it to the platform, and not use that model. But not all of the commercial companies are fast enough to overcome these challenges. Tomorrow there can be a new model for the patient selection, and if this is a regulated devices, I cannot change my model overnight, right? So that's why what we believe, what we see, what we believe even the day one is we need to invest in the data side. And data is not, for us, the definition matters here is not just scans. So that's why we say data is the asset. And here, what I can shortly add, it is scans, but then what kind of scans and how we process that scans and what information we extract from that scans, how we structure those scans, but then also one important thing, how we integrate that data into our development process. So that is basically why we also believe that statement.
Got it. Got it. That makes a lot of sense. We just got a question from the audience, and since we're talking about model and data development, I think maybe this is a good moment to answer this. It comes from Jay, where he asks, well, what are special tricks of developing nuclear medicine specific AI models compared to those traditional CT and MRR AI models?
That's a good question. In the nuclear medicine, again, what I mentioned is that closed loop. That is the magical piece of nuclear medicine, because the molecular target that you're imaging is also used in the treatment. So you're treating the same target as well. That is kind of making the nuclear medicine one step closer compared to the others. But for the CT, many years we already know that there was also radiomics and other basically research and other progress going on there. For me, that's also another topic, but what I can say, radiomics and all the activities, what has been done in MRI and CT direction was mostly focusing on identifying if there is any signal or not, which we see that there is signal, but then it goes beyond that. Is it linked to the treatment or not is another question, which makes things a little bit different. In Theranostics, it's a little bit more straightforward, I would say.
Got it. Got it. Oh, I see there's more questions coming in, but first, before going to that, I wanted to ask you about the value of multimodal data compared to the value of like most of the AI models that we've seen so far, also in MR and CT, were simply you have the DICOM files and maybe a report or some labels, and that's used as training and validation. But there's obviously a lot more value in adding more depth to the data by providing multimodal data and developing models with that kind of data. What is your opinion about that?
That's a good question. Early stages, Martin, what I realized, we were talking about how many scans access we have, and this kind of questions was around like how great data sets we have, right? So quickly what we realized, especially with the push of my CTO and co-founder, we realized that it's not about how great data you have. Great, not in most of the cases, is valuable. So that's why quickly when we have these discussions, there's a couple of questions that we ask. There's a couple of points that we pay attention is basically if this scan is linked to the outcome. That matters for us because we are not simply focusing on diagnostic part, which is reading the scan, right? So it is also important to understand what happened after the scan to the patient, right? So this is one of the questions. Another thing is there more scan? Because I mentioned that there is also protocols that a patient undergoes the scanning process multiple times throughout the treatment or the journey. So is there any longitudinal follow-up is another part of that. But then also there is other factors, which is basically is it labeled and how is the quality of the label, and I mean so on and so forth. So raw data alone has very little value. And we can also see that in the real world experiences as well. So that's why I agree with that statement. And I think there is a lot of value to build this kind of data sets, which is not easy in most of the cases.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it makes it exponentially harder, of course, when you want to train models on this kind of data. But okay. So one other exciting thing, and we shortly mentioned it earlier on, but today we are announcing a strategic partnership between Nucs AI and Segmed. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it was about Segmed that attracted you?
We talked about data a lot, and believe me, we've worked in this cases so to solve this challenge. This is a challenge for all the AI companies to solve this challenge, and we were most of the time successful solving the challenge that we have at hand at that time of the point. But then I quickly realized that we are becoming very strong in the data field. Even we have internal tools and stuff, and we spend a lot of time working on this data-related things, and for many reasons that we already listed, that we already discussed, right? So what we paid attention is it, yes, data is an advantage and this is the moat, but is it our job to do that? Can we do it with another partner, right? So that was one of the questions. Is it my competitive advantage to build these internal models and internal tools and then take care of the part which is not even my job or competitive advantage? And once this question was around, we brought this question to a couple of players in the field, right? So, and quickly realized that the nature of the field is more transactional, and it's not more, let's say, strategic partnership focused, where we can contribute each other and all these details in our partnership as well. So Segmed was for me the winner of this discussion in my own world, because the openness and how you think and how you approach, especially G and you, Martin, and whole your team, was extraordinary. So considering the current nature of this field, wholly transactional and all what I mentioned, that is first thing I realized in Segmed and Segmed's team. Right, that was one of the main thing. Another thing for me is if you have that, that's good. I mean, we all are open-minded and we are good people. But then, do we have access to that scans, right? So that is another, or to that data. That was another layer of our discussions, which we realized that Segmed have a huge, very valuable data sets in hand, and it's for us in most of the cases ready to use, which basically eliminates the part doing the job that is not our job, right? So these 2 points are the main points, but other than that, before the webinar I mentioned to you, I like your marketing as well. So I like your logo.
Yeah, it's not just about being like having that cultural match, which of course is very important, but it's about other factors as well, which I fully agree with. And what I really like about this personally is this is not a 1 + 1 = 2, but a 1 + 1 = a much higher number, 3 to 10, pick your number, equation, which is great. One more question about this. Yeah, go ahead. Or did you not want to say something?
If you may allow, why Nucs AI? Why didn't you do this with another AI company? Kind of giving that question back to you.
Yeah, very good. Fair enough. Well, it's kind of boring, but I would give you similar answers. First of all, I think it's the personal connection that you need to have when you want to go into a partnership like that. Like if that's not there, then for us that's a no-go already. We actually met in person, and I know you met Jay as well in person, and I think that's important when you have that personal connection, like these are good people, these are people that we can work with. That's a starting point. But then, of course, you start to look deeper. What I really like about you guys is I feel like you are different from your typical AI developer in medical imaging. First of all, because you're working in nuclear medicine, which I think is super exciting because I think that is like there's not much, and you may not agree, but there's not that much competition if you compare to the regular diagnostic radiology space. I think that's first of all a very smart move, but also I think it's a very important move because nuclear medicine is just so important when you're, like the oncology space, both for the diagnostic world as well as for the pharma life science world. It's just essential. So I think this is a really core business that you are building, and we just want to be part of that. We just want to make sure that we can grow that faster and that we can, that's why also we did a strategic investment, right? Like this is not just we want to work with you, we actually believe in it. So yeah, that's it just clicked, I think, in total. Like it's the right area, it's the right people, it's the right tools and technology being developed, and we believe that we can help each other out and exponentially increase that. So yeah, that would be my answer.
And
That was
if I
not
could
boring at all.
and if I could add to that, Nijat, we see you have a long-term vision for expanding your applications, not only throughout the patient journey, as well as to other adjacent areas. So we think Theranostics, of course, is super promising in the patient, in the cancer patient care. Yeah, so that was another, of course, important aspect.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for adding, Aline. You wanna continue, Aline?
Oh yeah, sure. So we discussed a lot about PSMA PET, but for training a model, you actually need multimodal data, not only the PET CT. So can you tell us a bit about the importance or the role of the multimodal data in this process?
The special part of what we are building in our portfolio is basically is yes, what we are building is interesting, but how we are building is also a very interesting point, right? So when you look at the architecture beyond, or the infrastructure beyond what we are building and how we are building, it's not only the product, random product or product portfolio, it is infrastructure that we are building. And what we do is we are focusing on patient profiling, right? Part of that patient profiling, we call it patient profiling engine. Part of that patient profiling engine is identifying everything about patient, even their, in the next steps, even their lifestyle. I mean, any information available about that specific patient, which can be potentially used in the treatment decision. Of course, that all patient profile information, what we can extract from multiple different data types, goes back and feeds the treatment decision making, and then goes back to the monitoring part of our closed loop, which we describe, right? In this case, what we realize, yes, we can reach to some point with one or two focus. Let's say for PSMA PET-CT is straightforward. PSMA PET-CT, RLT, PSMA PET-CT is the main focus for us. But then we realize that if you a little bit go beyond the binary approach, yes or no question, then the multimodal aspects become much more important, right? So that is exactly one of the reasons why we build and how we build it. And that could be a good example to your questions. I hope I could satisfy with that answer.
Yes, for sure. So we have another question from the audience. So Jay is asking your opinion regarding foundation models in nuclear medicine models specifically.
Yeah. I think my co-founder are listening to this podcast, so I'll be transparent with you. As a business person, early days, I was also obsessed with the foundational models, right? And then quickly, my business partner Farid made me realize that yes, foundational models are important, but this is highly challenging field, and every indication, every challenge, every treatment has its own nature and has its own, let's say, way to solve the challenge. So just generalistically approaching to one modality or one indication will not solve the problem, at least with the quality that we are trying to solve. So in that case, I love the foundational models, and it's making everybody's life easier, having a general model for applying to many cases, many things. But the way to reach there is focusing on each indication, each modality, and each challenge one by one, and then ultimately to reach that goal, rather than just like dumping millions of scans to one training process and then calling it we have a foundational model. That's what I think. at least right now, after Farid's push.
Yeah, that's great. So I have a question, and I think we are towards the end of our session today, but I would like to touch on the regulation part of, because developing models, having data, that all sounds great, but then there's actually all the regulation that the model or the product needs to go through. So what are the high level steps, if you will? What sort of evidence would regulators or pharma companies or potential clients would need before relying on your products?
We had many rounds of discussion with regulators as well, and we work with amazing experts in this direction. Many discussions early on. We believe that it's about documentation, but very quickly after interaction with these experts with FDA, we realized that yes, documentation is one thing, but the main thing that they are paying attention, which is very natural, is the validation. If it works as it is intended to be work, right? So that part, I think regulators cares more than anything. And if it can be generalized, because we cannot use, I don't know, 1 million population, 1 million person scans in the validation rounds. It will be certain amount of numbers, but is it representing the whole population or not is another point. So all parts of the clinical study part, but overall what I see, the main focus for them is not what is the technical part of the model, how did you build it, or this or that. Those are factors, but the main important thing is it validated? Is it working as you intended or as you're describing that it should work?
Yeah, I think the validation piece is often undervalued, because that is actually where you can really show how is this model performing, and that's probably the most important piece. But yes,
And that comes to the data as well.
Yep, that's right. That's right. We have more questions from the audience. Aline and I have a ton more questions. We could do this for another 45 minutes or probably longer, but unfortunately we are on time right now. So it was a great Bytes of Innovation webinar. Thank you, Nijat. I think we learned a lot. We learned why nuclear medicine is an exciting area, what the value of data, and more specifically, what the value of multimodal data there is. And of course, we spoke about the partnership between Nucs AI and Segmed. So lots of exciting things. Thanks again, Nijat. You did a great job. Excellent fireside chat. I also want to thank my co-moderator, Aline. Thank you for always being on my side when we have these webinars. I want to thank Andrea and Isabella, who are on the background doing all the organizational pieces as our marketing team at Segmed. And of course, I want to thank the audience for your involvement, for attending, and for asking the questions. So thanks to everybody. The next Bytes of Innovation webinar will be after the summer. We're taking a little break when it comes to Bytes of Innovation, and we hope to see you after this summer. So thanks again, everybody, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.